Aloha! You're watching F5 On Demand. I'm Technical Marketing Manager Peter Silva. We're here in San Francisco at the Moscone Center for Oracle OpenWorld 2012, booth 1527. If you're in town, come on by. And it's an All-Akker video week here at Oracle OpenWorld. I have my good buddy, solution engineer for our Global Oracle Alliance, Chris Akker, joining me again. Thanks again, Chris. And so this time, we're going to talk a little bit about the BigIP Access Policy Manager and the BigIP Oracle's Access Manager. So BigIP APM's integration with OAM. Yeah. And so can you tell us a little bit about what OAM is?
So Oracle Access Manager is identity management and access control to web applications. So Oracle has a complete Fusion middleware stack. This is one component of the Fusion middleware stack that sets up basically user accounts and passwords in an identity store. And then you can use that information to create what they call access policies, which determine who has access to what website and web pages and objects. So it's web access control. And we have an integration using an actual Oracle product on the BigIP with our APM module that talks to the Oracle Access Manager server and gives the functionality of a web gate, but it's running on a BigIP rather than running on a traditional web server.
Well, that's what I was going to ask, because BigIP APM does web access management also, and so it's web access management plus web access management, right?
Yeah, and we're using the Oracle backend as the control, if you will, for APM in this instance. APM is simply asking the question to Oracle Access Manager, is this user authenticated? And if not, go get authenticated. And if you are authenticated, you're a valid user, do you have access to this particular page that you clicked on within the application?
Right.
And that's very important because access control is the technology that you need to make sure that when you're accessing an enterprise application, that people who are not authorized should not be seeing things they shouldn't be.
Well, obviously, sensitive information, proprietary information, intellectual property, all those sorts of things that only those authorized people should see, of course.
Right, and so Oracle Access Manager and its policy engine allow you to define those policies and determine who has access. Now, the interesting thing is that these agents that are loaded on all of these web servers, they come in all types of shapes and sizes and flavors. And customers are having difficulty always finding the correct agent for their particular application server or their operating system.
Right.
So they will often build a proxy server and put that in front of the web server. Well, this is fine if you've got 6 or 8 web servers or maybe even a dozen. But as you have more and more applications and more servers, you need more and more proxies.
Yeah.
And so you can see over time, and with large deployments for large customers, we've actually had customers tell us they had to build 400 proxy servers to manage their infrastructure and control access. Well, nobody likes building and maintaining 400 proxy servers, or even 40 for that matter.
Right, and in an age of consolidation, you really don't want to be adding infrastructure, you really want to be consolidating, reducing infrastructure for all that TCO, ROI, so on and so forth.
Yeah, so it saves money if you don't have to spend data center space and power and cooling and staff to keep proxy servers running.
And that's really what the APM does. I was kind of joking earlier, of course, oh, this guy does it and that guy does the same thing, but it really, it eliminates the need to have agents on all those servers and worry about the varying versions and the particular agent. And it also then removes the need for that additional proxy tier of infrastructure that you have to build in to make sure that all of these things talk to each other.
Yeah, so what we did is we took the Oracle software development kit for writing and building your own agent, and we actually put it on the BigIP in the APM module. So it's actually Oracle code And this is the first time this has actually happened at F5, that we've actually licensed somebody else's code to use on our platform. And so now the BigIP can act as the web gate. It's functionally equivalent. It uses Oracle libraries and Oracle code to talk to the OAM server. But you have a single device, the BigIP, which gives you, much greater control, single point of control, and definitely higher performance and scalability with the BigIP platform. So instead of needing 400 proxy servers, you might need 2 pairs of BigIPs as an example, right?
And so I think we have a couple of the configuration screens from both OAM and APM here. So can we take a little closer look on how this actually gets configured between the two solutions?
Yeah, so what we did is we tried to make this as easy as possible. So what I'm going to show you first is the configuration screen in BigIP for the Access Policy Manager. And the OAM server is considered a AAA server. And here is the definition that you have to fill in the information for what Access Manager server am I going to connect to, and what's basically my admin password.
Sure.
And that's really the only thing you need to fill out. So you have to fill out the name, the FQDN, what port you're going to talk on, the account, the user ID, and 2 passwords, and that's it.
Nice.
So this is like, 15, 20 seconds worth of work here, or,
and it's just what it,
a minute.
And it's typical of what an administrator would have to do on a BigIP, just in terms of any AAA server out there as they're configuring the BigIP, the Access Policy Manager for access.
Right, and then you actually have to give it a little more definition by giving it the name of the WebGate agent.
Oh, okay.
And that's really just making sure, because each WebGate agent has a unique name and a unique password. So this has to match the configuration on the OAM server, which is what I'm going to show you next. So now that you have BigIP configured, you actually just simply create another WebGate, as if you were building a brand new web server and deploying a new agent. This is exactly the same process. You create a new WebGate, you type in a few things like the name and the password, and have a few other checkboxes here or there. And it's very, very simple in Oracle Access Manager to add a BigIP to your running configuration. This particular screen is Oracle Access Manager 11G, but our solution also works with Oracle Access Manager 10G.
Cool.
So we support both. Right. So it's very popular with customers.
And so it looks like this only takes, another few minutes to set up and configure, and then once they're both configured, so what is the user experience like? So they would hit that front page, the logon screen from the APM, maybe get a few endpoint checks, put in their credentials, and...
Yeah, so in this particular instance, what we do is we actually don't use anything of the APM software, except for the fact that we're going to talk to the AAA server.
Got it. Okay.
So it's actually transparent to the user. They go to the BigIP virtual server, and if they click on one of the web pages in that website that is protected, they're going to get what's called the challenge page. And they have to basically log in to Oracle Access Manager, get their authentication, and then if it's correct, the BigIP will then let them back through and access to the page.
Nice.
So it's intercepting the request, checking with Oracle Access Manager, and then either permitting or denying access based on Access Manager policy.
And almost like we were talking earlier with the ASM and the Oracle Database Firewall solution, even, in some ways, I'm sensing this, that it adds that other layer of security rather than there's an additional check, there's an additional verification before allowing access in, which to me is just that little slight better security, greater security.
Yes, exactly. It's an additional layer or additional step of protection that you can put in your environment, and it integrates perfectly with the existing systems that you have, and you don't have to move all of your applications to BigIP.
Sure.
But over time, you would find out that you don't need all those agents or proxies on all those servers.
Yep.
So why wouldn't you, over time, migrate all your applications? And most of the time, they're running through BigIP anyway. So just turn on Access Policy Manager and have it talk to Oracle Access Manager.
Right.
Simplifies your configuration greatly.
And that single, as you were speaking at the top of the video, that single pane of glass, that single management console to then manage, configure it all.
Yep, and you have a single point of control.
Right.
Makes troubleshooting issues a lot easier instead of trying to find out what server a user was on and what agent they're having difficulty with. They can go right to the BigIP and go right to the APM console and find out immediately what's going on.
Perfect. So if you have an Oracle, an OAM deployment and thinking of adding BigIP, that's turnkey. If you have BigIP and thinking of adding the OAM, turnkey.
Yes.
So either way it works. So a little bit more about our BigIP Access Policy Manager and the Oracle Access Manager integration with my star of the week, Chris Akker. And so for Chris, I got Robert behind the lens. Thanks a lot, Robert. I'm Peter, and we're with F5 Networks. Thanks for watching.